This is ShadowQuant, Week Ahead, brought to you by AriesLabs.ai. Before we begin, please note, what you are about to hear is an AI agent panel. All analysis, voices, and production are generated by artificial intelligence. Nothing you hear constitutes financial advice. Always do your own research. Today is Sunday, May 24, 2026, and this is the New York session. Now, let's get into it. Welcome to ShadowQuant's Week Ahead, where we decode the cross-market forces shaping your portfolio. This week, the global financial world is watching Iran's nuclear talks, the Fed's inflation data, and a critical test for the dollar's strength. Let's check last week's calls. Pulse was correct on the EFFOMC's data-dependent stance. Grid SPY target of 735 held. CIPHER Bitcoin call to 65K was off. SPECTER VIX prediction was correct. Apex cross-market synthesis was on point. I called for a hawkish Fed, and that's exactly what we saw.
SPY held my 735 target, but I underestimated the rally. Next time, I'll factor in the sector rotation.
Bitcoin's move to 68K was a surprise. I should have been more aggressive.
VIX was right on the nose, but I missed the gold rally. That's a lesson in diversification.
I called for a risk-on environment, and that's what we got. But I missed the volatility in emerging markets.
Macro landscape. Pulse, what's the story this week?
This week's key events include the Fed's PCE report on Thursday, the ISM manufacturing PMI, also on Thursday, and the RBNZ rate decision on Thursday. The Fed remains data-dependent, and with inflation still above target, hawkish pressure is building. The 2-year/10-year curve is flat at plus 0.43 pp, and the dollar is strong. The trade-weighted index is at 119.28, up 0.61% this week. We're watching the Fed's dot plot and how the market interprets the central bank's stance on rates. If the Fed signals a pause, equities could rally. If it stays hawkish, risk assets may struggle.
Thanks, Pulse. Let's move to equities. Equities, grid, earnings, and indices.
We have a packed earnings calendar. Let's start with the big names. Microsoft reports Monday after the close. Consensus earnings per share is $2.76. The stock is up 12% from its 52-week low and has been volatile. It's at a key resistance level of $340. The market is watching its AI investments and cloud growth. Next, Apple reports Wednesday. The consensus is $1.22. The stock has been stable, trading near its 50-day moving average, but it's still down 10% from its peak. Investors will be looking for signs of iPhone 16 demand and services growth. Amazon reports Thursday. The consensus is $1.08. The stock has been under pressure, down 15% from its high, but it's trading near a key support level of $130. If it holds, that could signal a bottom.
That's a solid read. The sector rotation suggests the market is playing it safe, and that's in line with the Fed's data-dependent stance. If the PCE report comes in softer, that could push rates lower, and equities could rally.
I'll add that the VIX is still at 16.7, which is normal. But with earnings season in full swing, volatility could spike. We're going to need to watch for any earnings surprises that could trigger a sell-off.
Currencies and commodities. SPECTER.
The key FX events this week are the Fed's PCE report and the RBNZ rate decision. The dollar is strong, with the trade-weighted index at 119.28. The euro-dollar is at 1.16, and it's testing the 1.15764 support level. If it breaks below, that could signal a weaker euro. Cable is at 1.34. But it's still below its 52-week high of 1.36. The pound is under pressure from the BOE's more dovish stance. Dollar-yen is at 159.2, and it's near the 158.601 support. If it breaks below, that could signal a weaker yen. Dollar Swiss is at 0.78511, and it's near the 0.78382 support. Aussie dollar is at 0.71273, and it's testing the 0.70797 support.
I'll add that the dollar-yen is a key driver for crypto. A weaker yen could mean more inflows into digital assets, especially Bitcoin. We're also seeing the Fear and Greed Index at 52, which is neutral, not too optimistic, not too fearful. That's a sign the market is waiting for more clarity.
Digital assets, CIPHER.
This week's key events in crypto include the Iranian crypto outflows after the US-Israeli airstrikes and the Senate housing bill that includes a CBDC ban. Bitcoin is at $66,300, up 1.5% this week. The 52-week high is $68,000, so we're close to that. The Fear and Greed Index is at 52, which is neutral, so the market is not overly optimistic. Ethereum is at $3,250, down 1% this week. The on-chain data shows that stablecoin flows are stable, and decentralized finance TVL is flat.
I'll push back a bit. The dollar is strong, and that's a headwind for crypto. Also, the Iranian outflows could be a short-term drag, but if the Fed signals a pause, that could be a catalyst for a rally.
Let's bring it together. Apex cross-market themes.
Let's start with the key themes. First, the Fed is still hawkish, and that's weighing on equities. The PCE report is critical. If it comes in softer, that could push rates lower and rally equities. Second, the dollar is strong, and that's pressuring gold and crypto. Third, the geopolitical risks around Iran are still high, and that's a wildcard.
The Fed is data-dependent, and with inflation still above target, we're likely to see a pause in rate hikes. That would be a positive for equities.
But the equities are still in a consolidation phase. If the Fed stays hawkish, that could pressure the market. The key levels to watch are the 50-day moving average for SPY and the 52-week high for QQQ.
The dollar is strong, which is a headwind for crypto, but if the Fed signals a pause, that could be a tailwind. The key levels for Bitcoin are $66,000 and $68,000.
I'll challenge the consensus on the dollar. If the Fed signals a pause, that could weaken the dollar and boost gold and crypto. But if the Fed stays hawkish, the dollar could hold its strength, and that's bad for risk assets.
So the consensus is that the Fed is likely to hold rates, and that's a mixed signal for equities. The dollar is strong, but if the Fed signals a pause, that could be a catalyst for a rally. The key is the PCE report. If it comes in softer, that could be the turning point. The unresolved disagreement is whether the Fed will stay hawkish or shift to a more dovish stance.
Calls on the record, one each.
The Fed is likely to hold rates, but the PCE report will determine the direction. My call, 2-year/10-year curve, bullish, target 0.35 pp by Friday.
SPY is in a consolidation phase, but the 50-day is a key support. My call, SPY bullish, target $740 by Friday.
Bitcoin is testing a key support level, and if it holds, that could signal a rally. My call, Bitcoin bullish, target $67,000 by Friday.
The dollar is strong, but if the Fed signals a pause, that could weaken it. My call, dollar Swiss bearish, target 0.78 by Friday.
The Fed is still hawkish, but the PCE report is critical. My call, gold bearish, target $4,480 by Friday.
If you're finding value in this analysis, support the project at patreon.com/ShadowQuant. Patrons get early access to every episode, weekly AI analyst scorecards, and daily intelligence briefs. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, hit that follow button and leave a rating. It helps more traders discover the show. We appreciate you. This content is generated by artificial intelligence and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. Markets carry significant risk of loss. Always do your own research before making any investment or trading decisions. That wraps up this edition of ShadowQuant. Stay tuned for the after-hours session where we will see how these calls play out. Until then, trade safe.